If you thought the only way to get to WrestleMania, to main event WrestleMania, was by winning the biggest and most important Royal Rumble of all time, then you, my friend, you were mistaken. Because in 1 month, there is an alternative pathway to WrestleMania. And on this night, some tickets were punched to the chamber match. Some tickets were denied to the chamber match. Some WrestleMania claims were made. Other questions were created. Plenty of questions coming out of tonight's Raw. Very, very few answers after the Royal Rumble, as it should be. Unlike in past years, there is only one big event between now and WrestleMania. The company is going to focus everything on that one event for 1 month. And what we get from there will be what we have for WrestleMania. What did you think of tonight's Raw? How do you feel about how the chamber is shaking out? Most importantly, what did you think of Jey Uso's first promo after being the Royal Rumble winner? Tell me what you think of Gunther's response to Jey Uso. This was also a big night for the women's division as we had the first Charlotte promo post Royal Rumble victory. A promo that saw Rhea Ripley essentially begging Charlotte to pick her. We had an announcement of AJ Styles coming over to the Raw side. We also had a few more tickets punched to the chamber, including CM Punk and Liv Morgan on the women's side. And as Earl in the chat is pointing out, maybe for the first time since the Raw is Netflix era, we had streaming issues. All across the country, there were streaming issues. In fact, when we got the big heel turn at the end of the show, you had a little bit of streaming issues. You had a little bit of bugs. And I mentioned that big heel turn. It's because somebody, as of right now, isn't going to WrestleMania and isn't even in the chamber, despite said match happening in his hometown. That man is, of course, Sami Zayn, who snapped on CM Punk at the conclusion of their match, only to get assaulted by Kevin Owens. What's up, all of you in the chat? Glad to see a nice eclectic bunch out there, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're checking us out over on the One True Sport Twitter account, the RVD Twitter account, wherever it is. I'm glad you're in the chat. Randigas says, fantastic main event. Punk is definitely one of the best of all time, telling the story in the ring. Valentin says, hi, what's up, Valentin? Been a couple days. Eddie notes that he believes Roman and Seth need to finish their feud at Mania. What did I say, Eddie? How did I phrase that? Maybe it was the Netflix issue is how I missed the end of that. Ah, got you. So it was the Netflix bug. Okay. Well, I missed that completely. So yeah, I just saw it going down like that. I completely missed where Owens came in there because that was the Netflix bug. So the Netflix bug got me as well, which is which is not good, and quite frankly, could be concerning as Netflix gets into their era here of live programming. This is the first night we've had hiccups. You had some hiccups early on with some of the boxing uh, that they did with the Tyson Paul fight, and then but you've had the NFL games and you've had Raw so far, seemingly going off without a hitch. I've not got a lot of comments from you guys. We've had every Raw on Netflix, and this is the first time we've had some streaming issues. With that said, at least it's not something where you only got one shot at it and it's over with. You can go back to watch it. E points out that Sammy got what was coming to him for not helping KO, and Punk always wins matches when he's not cheated like the Rumble. Good to see you guys getting in there. A little bit of AEW, WWE chatter in there. In case I didn't introduce myself after that very, very clunky intro, I am Rob. This is the Nocturnal Knockout, a Brass Ring Media podcast right here on the One True Sport YouTube channel. Coming at you every Monday night after Raw, after most WWE big events, and any other time we kind of feel like it. And tonight there are plenty of things to get into. We'll break this down kind of segment by segment. I thought tonight's Raw had different self-contained segments, even though there was a few threads that went throughout. There's been like the Sami threads that have gone throughout. We heard from Seth Rollins tonight, but I think for the most part tonight Raw had these individual segments that or individual slices of the show that kept stuff really nice and tight. It was very easy Raw, I thought, to follow. And I think what was interesting and what was always going to be interesting about this Raw is not only the fact that you had such a shock in the win of Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble. Again, if you called it, good on you. But very few people called that on Saturday night before it happened. Heck, even seconds after it happened, I think everyone's still looking over their shoulder to make sure that that was true and that is what was going to happen. So you knew that we would get follow up on that tonight, and we did when Raw opened. However, you know that despite the push that Jey Uso is seemingly getting at this point, and we'll get a lot, we'll talk a lot about Jey uh, when whenever we really get into the show. Despite the push that he's getting, he has not been the focus of a lot of these shows. So what that means is there's a lot of other loose ends to tie up other than him. His spot at WrestleMania is but one spot. Yes, it's a very, very important spot. And we'll talk a little bit more about how all of that played into his promo, and even some of that played into the discourse. He knew that other people on the card still had things to do. So there was a lot. There's still a lot to be sorted out, and I would say after tonight's show, it's very, very clear that you may have had a certain feeling after the Royal Rumble about one specific way everything was going to go, and I don't know if those expectations were challenged tonight. I don't know if they were reinforced tonight, but I think we definitely have some clear directions. We don't know where exactly we're going to get where we're going to get to, but we do have the clear directions. You know what, Talk 64? I want to talk a little bit about that because I think that's fairly important. Sammy Owens at Mania again. Then Sammy feuds with Cross, which turns Sammy heel to face Jay. No Cody versus Roman. Jay not challenging for Gunther against losing twice. Already made recently, like a week or two. He's gonna pick Cody, but they're using him to turn Cody. That's interesting. And you guys are talking about, I don't think we're getting. I don't think we're getting any Rock talks. I really don't think we're getting the Rock. And as you were saying, Eddie, I don't think we're getting Cody Roman. I think the thing that was made abundantly clear tonight, as was the case since the press conference on Saturday night, is that Cody's opponent was not going to be the winner of the Royal Rumble. Cody's opponent is going to be the winner of the Elimination Chamber matchup. I do not believe, and I do not see Jay as some guy that's going to go after Cody right now. Now, tonight, Jay did mention that he is going to talk to Cody on SmackDown, and he will address him over there. But this is building to a third and ultimate match between Jay and Gunther. Now, we can talk about whether that's the right thing to do or what the setup is, but I think that is very, very obvious based on what we saw tonight, the direction that they're going. Therefore, this men's elimination chamber basically becomes the de facto Royal Rumble. And just like what we had in the Rumble, if this plays out the way it seems like it's going to play out, it will be a very star-studded chamber with plenty of possibilities in the mix. Right now, there are only two men officially announced for the match, and those two men are John Cena and CM Punk. Say for a Roman Reigns, as you're saying there, Eddie, you cannot get bigger stars in this match. I mean, I guess if you pulled out like The Rock and brought Austin out of retirement, that's about the only way you can get bigger stars already in this match, which should be a signal to everybody watching, with all due respect to Jay, and we'll get to him in a little bit. The big star, big title is still the Cody title, and that is not the scene that Jay right now is involved in. What's up, Joe Burrow Shades? Probably favorite Twitter handle that gets in on the chat. They raised the bar so high with Cody Roman. What match could they do at WrestleMania? That low. Well, and it was about finishing the story, and all these stories they were telling, there'd be no story really to tell other than the rubber match story. It really wouldn't have the same resonance. It just wouldn't. Then that needs to cool off, and maybe in different roles and different set. Like, the story has been told. I don't know if he's competing in that match, Eddie. That I think he makes his presence known in Canada. I don't think he's competing in that match. Yeah, so you also have Eddie. You have Jake. Is it Jake Paul and Rey Mysterio facing off next week as well? And then you have the Seth Finn winner as well. The Rock versus Cody. Don't everyone forget the Trouble Tuesday. Yeah, and I just think all the Rock stuff is just not relevant right now, and we shouldn't think about it until he shows up. If he shows up, then yeah, we need to go all in on it. But until then, we can I think rest on the Rock stuff, because it's not relevant to anything we're saying, unless it's like he's coming in to general manage NXT. That's about all we can hope for right there. But yeah, I totally see the men's chamber match as for that big night 2 prize, and I think Jay versus Gunther is the night 1 main event. Maybe not even the main event, just a big title match. So let's break down Raw from the beginning. Let's go down segment by segment. let's talk about some of the big takeaways from the show, and then after we'll kind of see where we stand in terms of the chamber and in terms of the card itself. Okay, so we started this night Raw on Netflix with quite a bit of Royal Rumble recap, which is par for the course, except for this went extra long. And if you've noticed on Netflix, they're not quite competing for viewers in the same kind of way, where they're not always trying to just keep your attention and grab it, and they don't have quite that Crash TV approach. So they take a little bit of time sometimes getting into some of these shows. So it was a long time before they even cut to Jey Uso backstage and Jey Uso's big entrance and Jey Uso coming down like he always is from the side, interacting with the announcers, and then even playing his music a second time. So this was minutes and minutes of the Jey Uso celebration. You knew of any of the nights, except for the night when and if he brings home one of those major titles. This was a night for Jey Uso celebration. You can basically say the start of this would be Jey Uso appreciation night. And this went on for a long time. And these pops were big. These pops were huge, and Jey was emotional. Jey had these people right where he wanted them. Jey could have said anything out there, and they would have done anything. These people were absolutely into Jey on this night. Jey was emotional, but the fans stayed with him. Jey went on to say that he wasn't sure if he had it before. He talked about being the second guy, being that tag team guy in the way that Gunther had essentially framed it, but he believes that he's got it now. That led to Gunther interrupting. Gunther himself saying that he is disappointed and that this doesn't appeal to him. Now, Gunther basically took the opinion or the stance that after beating him twice, this is not what I wanted to do at WrestleMania. I had all these possibilities from this star-studded WrestleMania, and this is what I landed up with. And Gunther emphasizes that if Jey picks him, Gunther promises to make Jey's life miserable, with that misery culminating at WrestleMania. That's where Jey mentioned that he's going to holler at Cody, but he's walking out of WrestleMania as champ, regardless of what title he goes after. And that concluded, after about 38 minutes or so, the initial Jey Uso promo. So after main event, Jey Uso is actually part of the main event in a real installed manner. The closest thing you can be without getting the title is winning the Royal Rumble, especially such a star-studded Royal Rumble. This was his moment to really be presented as a top guy, as a guy in control, not just a guy who's going for the chase. And yes, he is chasing the title here, but someone that has earned something, someone that has earned a bit of stature, something that is a limited resource, a Royal Rumble win, something that not everybody gets. Title shots at WrestleMania may not be the biggest title shot, may not have the value that these always have, but it's still something. It's not unimportant. And in terms of his opening promo, it wasn't much of a promo, but it didn't need to be. This was mostly crowd work, and he had them into it. I don't know what else Jey could have said or done in this situation. If he would have gone out there and completely broken character and been all, or not even broken character, but been in character, been silly, completely doing his thing, completely not even acknowledging what had happened, we would have hated that. The emotion of the moment was necessary. I hope not, Eddie, but that seems to be creeping in. So, take a swig of ginger ale for the working man. So, what do you guys think of Jey's initial promo? Like I said, it wasn't a very long promo. It was filled with emotion. It was a lot of crowd work. With that said, the crowd was very into it. And beyond his promo, this is the story they seem to be telling. Just like all the commentary has been noting the limitations maybe of having Jey Uso in this role. Jey Uso is an unconventional choice. You can work that into kayfabe, not necessarily that he is the choice of the company, but he is an unlikely person to take up this mantle, and now he is in that position. So that is a story that they are going with. They did not roll with a super confident Jey Uso that he's coming out there now, he's won the Rumble, that's it. That's not the direction they're going, and that makes sense. You need to acknowledge the fact he is where he is. You need to be careful though, probably, to not necessarily frame him as such a loser, though, perennially. And I think that's kind of what E is getting there. As E says, what's the difference? The other promos he told all the title matches he held, and then he lost all the title match. Well, that's where the tough sell is. E is how to get someone to buy in that he could do it this time. I don't know if that's as much of the sell that they were going for tonight. I think the sell that they were going for tonight is, why would he choose Gunther and not choose Cody? Because I think it is clear that the match at WrestleMania is going to be Gunther versus Jey. And you have to have a storyline reason for that. Because let's face it, all things being equal, if this is to be a legitimate sport, there would be no reason that a Jey Uso would go after a Gunther. You would go after the real top guy, and how that is presented. But what they are doing with the storyline, they're giving a reason for Jey to want to prove himself. The storyline, as you're asking in the chat, is that he has lost, is that he cannot get this done. After having some time to sit on it and seeing where they are going with it, I think it's okay to be okay with this, even if Jey wasn't your pick, or even if you don't really feel like Jey is the man to be in this position, that they could have gone other directions. Where they are going is fine, and it's not going to ruin anything. There is nothing that is necessarily being wasted here, and I think that's something that's been missed in the last couple of days. And part of the problem, if there is a problem with any of this, with Uso's win and the discourse after and all of that, has nothing to do with Jey Uso, with his popularity, or with even a lot of the direct booking around him. What it has to do with is the fact that Gunther's title is just presented so much less, and we know it is so much less than the real title. Therefore, in kayfabe, it makes no sense for the Royal Rumble winner to ever go after a title that isn't the title that Cody has, that isn't the real title. There is such a secondary nature to the title that Gunther holds that, again, the logic would dictate that would be the secondary choice. If this was a shoot sport, excuse me, if this was a shoot sport, the chamber winner would be going after Gunther's title. That's the consolation prize. This title is the real prize. Now, it's not a shoot sport, and they don't necessarily have to tell that story. That's the joy of it being pro wrestling. But as I said, the problem is not in any of these individual performers. The problem is in the prize that you're going for. That prize that Jey is going for is not worthy of the mountain he just climbed on Saturday night. That's the problem. It's got nothing to do with Jey. So, Eddie, I think all of that is cool. I think Braun Breaker or Jacob Fatu would be great if Jey's the transitional champion, and that is still all secondary. That is still all the thing behind what Cody and Roman and Punk and everyone that really matters is actually doing. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with secondary titles, but all of that is secondary. I guess in an area where you're going to have two titles, maybe that's the case. Usually, to me, it depends on who the champion is and how they're presented. But they are on different footings, and we can't pretend that they are. Hey, Tox, you got anything like good to say, or are you just gonna like talk crap all night? Because you're not really contributing to the conversation in any way. From that segment, we go to really a re-air of the Cena press conference from Saturday night after the chamber match, where he declares that he is simply in the chamber because he has earned it after all of these years. And that's that. So he becomes the first official entrant into the men's match. What's up, Fernando? Yeah, I thought Raw was really good today. I thought from a watchability standpoint, those 2.5 hours went really quick. So I was a little late tonight, honestly, because slightly unprepared. Then the Netflix bug got me at the end, and I missed what happened at the end. Which I mean, make sure to go back and double check that. It's a very unprofessional way to start a show. But our first official match of the night was Penta versus Ludwig Kaiser. Penta getting the win in this one after a sacrifice into the big driver. And this continues to be the formula for Penta, and the crowd is still into him. Where you're having about these 8 to 12 minute matches against guys as he's going up the card, and he's getting victories against these guys slowly but surely. But we had a little more progression on this show because Penta was going to get some promo time here. But he was interrupted by Pete Dunne's music, and then Ludwig attacked him from behind. All of these guys want a piece of Penta. Another version of the League of Nations? God, I hope not. That horrible mid-card group. I mean, I didn't snap that these are international guys, but I mean, a lot of the guys on the undercard are international. That's the only thing I couldn't connect it with the League of Nations. And just like mid-carders now are presented in such a better fashion than that League of Nations era. I don't think these guys are quite analogous. But I have to say they are keeping the push, I think, at the same level with Penta. Eddie disagrees though. Eddie thinks Penta deserves better than to be in a feud with jobbers like Dunn or Kaiser. See, the feud is where I sort of agree with you to an extent, Eddie. I don't mind him having matches with these guys. I wish though, if Ludwig Kaiser is going to be his first real feud, I wish it was against a guy who was positioned slightly higher on the card. Again, he's already beat him on Raw, and I think that was fine. Next week, he should go on to someone even greater or further keep advancing. Guys like Ludwig Kaiser are okay to have feuds with, but I think he can end up spinning your wheels. And Ludwig Kaiser is very good, but he's presented in such a loser way. Like, he's below Sheamus. He's the guy that's below the IC level. I don't really want Penta to be spending a whole lot of time just hanging out with him. Yeah, one-off matches. That's I agree with that. I agree with that for sure, Eddie. Now, the Penta fire up was great, right? The people are into Penta. I assume the masks are still selling well, and as long as that's going, I mean, look how long Sin Cara and other versions of Sin Cara stayed with the company, just because he sold a lot of masks. Penta is much more engaging than Sin Cara. You can do much more with Penta than you could have done with either version of Sin Cara, in my opinion. Cole gave us a recap of JD McDonough's injury from last week. That injury that was brutal last week when he hit his head. They went over all the ailments that our guy had, which I feel a little bad that we were clowning him so much. But that led to Finn lecturing the Judgment Day says that maybe Dom needs a babysitter, but Liv says to calm down and notes that she's got a qualifying match tonight and that Dom got Finn his qualifying chance next week or whenever it's going to be, that everything's okay. Dom's got it. I'm so confused with what's going on in the Judgment Day, just because it feels like the string is already played out and the whole Dom and Finn thing. I just don't care about the fallout of the people that aren't as important now that the really important pieces are gone. Now that this thing doesn't have such a bearing on the main title picture and it's just the little skirmishes between these guys, I could care less about it. I'd be okay if they announced that the Judgment Day is cool and they keep doing, and Dom and Finn have their feuds and Liv does their things, or if they just announce that the Judgment Day is dissolved. Either one of those at this point would be perfectly fine with me. From there, we had our other big tentpole Royal Rumble winner segment of the night. We had our Charlotte segment. Now, Charlotte came out here looking like April O'Neil. Or maybe Hulk Hogan. I don't know. What do you guys think there? So just me putting that face up there just engenders the booze. Yeah, there she is, the queen. Look at all that. Am I getting a heat right now on this stream just for putting her picture up? Wait. Yeah, she looks different. She has changed. She had several different appearances in the time that we have known her. But she says she missed being booed. Talks about how hard last year was. Says that she's going to embrace all this booze because she loves all of you. Says the reactions doesn't matter because she's the greatest female wrestler ever. At first when they were going through this, I kind of thought, are they really going with like delusional face? Or are they going to try to push the face? And you see, no. They know it absolutely what they're doing here. They're not going to mess with that. So thank God. But after declared herself the greatest female ever, Rhea comes out. Rhea says she respects Charlotte. Yeah, Eddie, that was complete news to me. Rhea says she respects Charlotte, but asks Charlotte to pick Rhea. Charlotte says though she's going to go to NXT to see if Julia inspires her. She's going to see if Tiff inspires her. They talked about the other matches that they have had. And it all leads to Rhea just being disrespected or feeling disrespected by Charlotte. And Rhea really drives it home that she really wants to be picked by Charlotte because Charlotte doesn't respect her. And that is the core of that storyline. Obviously, there's a few more pit stops that Charlotte has to go on, but that is one possibility for Charlotte on this night. If you look at the generic face and heel alignment, it would actually make sense that you would do Charlotte versus Rhea 3. Saturday night, I was a little colder on that matchup, and I continue to be. I think there's just probably more you can do with Rhea, and there's probably better uses of Charlotte. A better use of Charlotte is probably not having her win the Royal Rumble, but we have to deal with that. Now, I thought for a long time her and Tiffany could be a match, but that match really runs the risk of Tiffany just being completely smothered by Charlotte. This would mitigate some of that. But I didn't get the sense that there was a ton of interest in these two. Not that they won't have a good match if they do have a match. They've met 2 other times at WrestleMania, and both times have been very, very good. Probably the best one or best or one of the best wrestling matches on each one of those wrestling shows. Those matches were on. But the fans have had it. They've had their fill. In fact, they've had their fill of Charlotte quite a bit. They feel like they've wrung out anything that they need to get out of her. So they have no interest in that match. Unfortunately, I don't think fans have a lot of interest in Charlotte versus Tiffany either, but that's where we're at. Of course, there's always a chamber match that could change everything. Yeah, that would be a challenge. Because she even smothers out. It occur even wrestlers that are on her level or that she wouldn't necessarily. You wouldn't think that she would be able to crowd out. She definitely did. But what do you guys think of this notion that the way that WWE is presenting it, or the way that they're presenting it, is that Charlotte was the prize. Charlotte's Royal Rumble win is the thing to be sought after. Why is Rhea, the champion, chasing after the Royal Rumble challenger? Someone who she's already beat, by the way. Is the respect of Charlotte really that important? Seems like a tough sell. Yeah, and we got gratuitous Bailey shots tonight, Bailey in the crowd, but no action with Bailey. We got a quick little Sami promo, which, like every promo in WWE right now, is just there for the competitor to start the promo, then walk off and start another conversation. Sami eventually goes and hugs Jay, tells him that the moment is yours. Jay wishes Sami luck with Punk. Karrion Kross is there to laugh at Sami. Sami says he's sick of Karrion Kross. I agree with Sami. It's just the interrupting train. It, it, not that these beats in the story are that bad. It's just the interrupting train is a little annoying. From there, we get what is at this point only our second match of the night, as the New Day is going to take on Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee. Of course, Rey Mysterio in the last couple weeks has been beating up these New Day guys, getting the best of Xavier at Atlanta, getting the best of Kofi. But the New Day had some new music. They finally have their heel music. What do you guys think of their heel music? Back from commercial, though, the New Day match is where we got a little bit of action with within the women's division, as you had Io Sky coming up to Rhea Ripley and telling her that she'll see her at Mania. And as they separate, you had Liv attacking Io. Of course, Liv has a chamber qualifying match with Io later in the night. Rhea came in for some assistance, but Raquel got the better of her. Gee, I wonder where all this is going. So you like the New Day music? I thought it really fit the character well. There's none of the new music that WWE ever has right now. It's really all that inspiring, but I thought that was decent enough. In the middle of the New Day Dragon Lee Rey Mysterio match, Logan Paul decided to walk on out there. Rey eventually pushed Logan Paul, but Logan Paul would get his revenge, gets to Rey, and Kofi got the pin. Logan Paul will face Rey in a qualifying match, I believe, next week. So that will be one of the spots in the chamber. Gonna be Logan Paul. Spoiler. They were in Cleveland though. So was it Logan Paul was going to be a face? He pretty much was booed as you would expect him to be. And then we get kind of a Roman update. They were being very coy with it, as Michael Cole said that it's not an official update. There's only very limited information he has, but that Roman Reigns will be out for a while. Leads to our CM Punk promo where he apologizes in advance to Sami's fans, but says he has goals and a destiny he needs to achieve. And then we do get the EO versus Liv Chamber qualifying match. And before we got that, though, we got a little graphic to note that with more than 300 million views on Instagram, people have seen Braun Breaker just kill ISO Speed, which is awesome. That spear has been viewed more than 3 million times. It's viral, folks. The double stomp better be a new move. So out there in this match, though, the qualifier with Io Sky and Liv Morgan, obviously Io is not going to be at her best to start, but this match was given a little bit of a time, I got to say. And once this match got going, it was a whole lot of fun. It was not a blow away, super go back and forth spot match. It was given its time, and it had the crowd engaged, and it didn't need to do too much. And there's not been a lot of time over the years in the women's division where you've had a lot of these longer matches that kept people's attention, I felt, in the way this one did. This was very engaging. It's not often you're going to hear me give this high of praise for a Liv Morgan match, but I just thought they knew how to fill some time in a very constructive way on this night. You obviously had Raquel getting involved on Liv's behalf, but Rhea runs out to even the odds, but Liv ends up getting the win via DQ. Thanks to Rhea. Io's mad, doesn't accept Rhea's apology, and Rhea is there, sitting there, looking real sad with her title. This is weird, because since when is Rhea Ripley so magnanimous over here? I know she's the champ and all, but she's supposed to be above everyone, and she's apologizing to Io and coming out to defend Io. And I know she had gotten beaten up earlier, but the way this was all presented was not in the way that I think fits with why people go absolutely nuts for Rhea Ripley. Could be interesting down the road, but whatever this was just a little weird. The War Raiders got a quick promo where they gave a shout out to JD McDonough, and they were interrupted by Gable and his crew. Gable says that he's going to go on a lucha quest, so we'll see how that all works out for him. And then we get the Seth Rollins promo. Before we talk about Seth's promo, can we talk about Seth's attire? So I don't know what Seth had going on here. It was like a late 80s, early 90s action star. I was thinking like country music star from the 90s. It was just all black with this duster, with the black hat, those glasses he has, with the dyed blonde and the black hair. I mean, if it had been old black hair, it would have looked a little too on the nose, like a weird Undertaker cosplay. This had some corniness to it. I can get behind this look. What I could have get behind was the promo he cut, because that promo was long and long and long. And he addressed everyone. He addressed Sami. He addressed Punk. He addressed Roman. Now, he really hit it home that Roman was going to be gone for a really long time. Roman ain't making it to WrestleMania. Meanwhile, he talked about his match that he's going to have with Finn. And then he called out Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn obliged. and noted that Sami had to take out Punk. That was the lead in, obviously, for the main event. Of all those, Austin, I think Punk versus Cody works out the best of all those. And that led us into our main event segment. For the first time ever, Sami Zayn and CM Punk. And this is the first time we've seen CM Punk in action on Raw since the January 6th Netflix, which is the first time we had seen him in action on Raw in a little over a decade. And as you guys have mentioned, this match did not disappoint. Went through a few commercial breaks, but in the end, it was CM Punk getting the victory, and the unraveling of Sami Zayn continues. And the unraveling of Netflix continued during this segment. But you have Kevin Owens making Sami Zayn pay the ultimate price. The sneaky, sneaky Kevin Owens paying the price for providing no assistance, just looking on at the Rumble. I guess he didn't have to interfere in the Rumble because KO knew that Sami wasn't going to win it, so he didn't have to come out there? Or is it because he was dead from the ladder? Which one is it? And so it would appear that we are setting up for Sami and KO either at WrestleMania or in Canada. Either way, whatever happens with the two of them, you would think a major, major beat in the story would happen at our next pay-per-view, which just happens to be in Toronto. And as a result of that match, 2 of our 6 Elimination Chamber spots are settled with John Cena and CM Punk. 2011 Money in the Bank, live forever. He really is, Austin, and I think he has a really good look at winning this chamber. Although right now I don't know if he's the pick. And that was basically Raw, a tidy 2.5-hour show. Not a lot of fat on this show. They had a lot to do to follow up from the Rumble. And I think they did a fairly decent job of fitting in what they needed to fit in with who they had. Being that there wasn't a ton of part-timers at the Rumble, tonight didn't feel like such a step down. They had all those big stars in the Rumble, but all those big stars are regular stars. The only people that weren't there is Cena, who was addressed and is still, part of the canon, and the guys that would belong on SmackDown. Those are the only guys you didn't see as Fallout. And everyone, when they talked about the Rumble, talked about it as if it was something that was sad, that meant something to them, that they lost. And so I thought, in terms of Royal Rumble follow-up, that was the way to do it. That was a decent enough show, all to build it to one big follow-up event. What do you guys think of Raw? Sounds like the opinions are a little bit divided in the chat. Go and let me know what was the highlight of Raw. I would say match of the night, but I think that goes to the main event. It goes without saying. And what was the big news of the night? We'll do some Super Bowl predictions right when I get out of here, E. Hopefully no more iconic NBA trades just break in the middle of one of our streams. You got it at a half a Raw. 3.7 out of 5. This is an oddly specific. Oddly specific number, 3.7. Is there like a star rating that goes with that? No, I don't think so, Austin. Austin's asking, and we'll put his chat up there. Is John Cena winning the Chamber a must win? I don't think so because John Cena's not really going to be there to even promote the dang match. So I don't see it as this sort of must win. I'm sure after the fact and whatever promo he cuts that will result in his WrestleMania match, I am sure he will frame it as one of the biggest, most important things that he ever did, or that he could have. That the end result of that was so devastating. I don't think it's a must win though, and I think they'll be able to move on. It depends though. Is he going to lose? I think that's really the discussion to be had. Cena was on No Our Truth. Didn't care for Charlotte promo too long. Not great. In my opinion, the two people that are on the graphic right now, Punk and Cena, one of those two men is going to be your winner. I don't think it's going to be Paul. I don't think it's going to be Finn/Seth. I don't think it's going to be Drew or whoever else is going to be in this match. It's going to be Cody's opponent. Now, who is Cody's opponent? That's a discussion I think we can have for about a month and a half. I don't think it's going to be Jey Uso. And I think that was made abundantly clear tonight. Eddie's got Cena winning one of the big belts sometime after WrestleMania. I'm not so sure he gets that belt on this run. I don't love him and Cody. If it's him and Cody, or him or Punk, maybe you have to do. I mean, if it's if it's Cody Cena or Cody Punk, you probably then have to do Cody Cena this year, if that's just what you got to do. But then there's still there's still other things to be accounted for, and it just would not be that great of a match. Hell of an attraction though, and I don't think you can blame him for going towards that type of attraction. And it felt like in the Rumble, Austin, that they left it open. Sports Talk with Austin notes something to stew on. What's Punk's favorite from the Rumble? We still don't know, and we're going to be on this extended time with Roman being away. So, are we going to forget about it? I don't think they're trying to erase Flair out of the record book because I don't think it's that important of a record. It's only a record when they say it's a record. Like that's not something you need to even emphasize. Like, the only reason why we know of it is because they make it Ric Flair's record. They make it as some kind of trinket for John Cena to go after. It feels like the Seth Rollins of it all seems to be what's in the way for everyone. It seems to be what like where Seth obviously has tons and tons of support. So I don't want to pretend like Seth has no support. And I think sometimes people can beat up on Seth's character when it's unnecessary. But realistically, what do you, as viewers of this product, what do you want to see him do at WrestleMania? What would be on your wish list for Seth Rollins that could realistically happen right now? He's this third wheel right now on this show. Let me check the old Twitter. Make sure we're not sleeping on any news. So you guys are all right with Seth versus Roman. I just don't love it as something for Roman to do at WrestleMania. Well, if it's a blood feud, then you can do it at Bad Blood. And I know it was a major plot point in last year's WrestleMania main event. I get that. Just saying, I think we could be on to bigger and better things. Seth Punk too. Who are we missing with all this then? What's the missing piece? Because you have CM Punk, John Cena, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns, and you have a Cody Rhodes sticking out there. Uh, That's like this big five rotation that you're sorting out. And how do they all align? What's the best spot for all of them to be in? I don't know. LA Knight is nobody's favorite right now. They could do what you're suggesting, Eddie. Almost as a reverse nod to 2013 when it couldn't happen. I just think that's too cute. I really do. He's saying the perfect world to have Roman winning the chamber, chooses Cody, Puck cashes in his favor, and the match is a triple threat. I'd have no interest in seeing that as a triple threat. I also have no interest in that being the way Punk would get his WrestleMania main event. The one thing about we're talking about Cena, and again, he seems like a pretty obvious choice to win the chamber. The one thing about him, though, you can move him out of that main event picture, and his match can still be huge. There's some other guys that you would move out of there, and it's not that important. Whatever Cena does at WrestleMania is going to matter. Whatever Cena does at WrestleMania is going to be important. So I think you can at least breathe easy with that. But this is and we're going through it here. This is a hard test to study for. There's not a great answer here on what to do with all those people. These are all decent enough responses. And that just assumes, again, as Austin's put in there, there's other guys to deal with. That assumes that we are completely dealing with the roster that we have right now, and that also implies that we will have no major changes or injuries. Eddie threw out Cena versus Braun. Now you had Braun commenting on AJ Styles coming over to Raw, and you've had a little bit of Braun's interactions with Jacob and Penta, and Braun could be involved with a whole lot of people on this show right now. Braun has a whole hell of a lot of possibilities. Yeah. Okay. I'm laughing because I finally saw. Now I saw the bug-free end segment, and I totally saw how I thought Sammy attacked Punk and then got attacked by KO. I just saw the closing segment. Glad I got to see the end of Raw an hour into the post show. Punk versus Cody versus Seth. God, I hope not. That sounds like the worst of all worlds. That would be terrible. I do not want that. Do not want that. Don't want the triple threat. Period. In this scenario, there's plenty of places for triple threats on this card. I don't want one in the men's title match. In terms of Sammy and KO, where are you guys at with that as a major WrestleMania match again, or as a big match again this time with the hugest of stakes at a WrestleMania? Last time we saw these guys in proximity to each other, this close at WrestleMania, it was them tag teaming against the Usos in their main event. Now they would be taking each other on, and what I would assume would be like an all-out brawl kind of match. A great um, undercard match. Really one of the top feuds that's not for a title, I would assume. I think Eddie, there would just be too much convoluted stuff to get him into that if that's the thing. Eddie asked, how about if Jay got it, Punk got into the Jay Gunther match? I think there's way too much convoluted there. Eddie says Sammy versus KO should be an opening match. It's a real shame they just did a ladder match. That would seem like you would do a ladder match. Yeah. If we don't want triple threats, we really would have want fatal four ways. Fatal four ways for WrestleMania titles. No. Wasn't a good idea in 2000. Wouldn't be a good idea in 2025. E says, and I think he's referring to Sammy and KO. Good match to have on the crowd, but already seen it before. Well, I mean, they are going to fight forever. So what do you expect? All right, guys. We'll cut the Raw review just a little bit short for now. We've gone about an hour. I have to be up super early in the morning, so I'm going to cut off just a little early tonight. But never fear. You know, I'm always around the corner, either next Monday or I can always pop up. You never know. Last week I popped up in the middle of the week. Maybe I'll pop up in the middle of the week this week. Who knows? Go ahead, though. Keep it locked on. One True Sport YouTube channel, Brass Ring Media YouTube channel. Find Brass Ring Media on Substack. Go ahead and subscribe. Find us on Patreon. Go ahead and subscribe there. And of course, check us out on all the social media. But that's going to do it for tonight, guys. Happy Monday. Talk to you next week.